Herr Kahn, wie holt man eigentlich das Double?
Ganz einfach, mit einem neuen Samsung QLED TV.
Jetzt QLED TV Aktionsgerät kaufen und Gutscheine für 6 Monate Live-Fußball aus europäischen Top-Ligen bekommen. Über Sky Ticket, The Zone und Eurosport Player in der Samsung Sportworld App. Mehr Infos auf samsung.de/sportworld.
Nur bis zum 17. Juni.
Blog Talk Radio.
Heaven is love. Heaven is so strong and profound that it doesn't have the same barriers of accessibility that other places have. It does have some barriers, though. We can only travel so far into the brilliance of creation with a physical-based vehicle before that brilliance would cause damage to the body. One gets little flashes of this with the Kundalini. It's difficult to stay here on this world when encompassed with bliss. Even with very small amounts given from the Kundalini, the body can convulse with joy to the point of obliteration. Heaven is stepping into the brilliance of creation. This brilliance is a tangible form of love. So know this, and be with this, and welcome to this conversation about your Kundalini Awakening experience. My name is Chrism, and I would like to welcome, first of all, everybody in the chat room here. I see Julie, and I see Julia, and I see Fashji, and MJ, and Steve, and Suka. Hello, everybody. And without further ado, I would like to welcome the Queen of Questionable Comforts, Mrs. Amelia Santara O'Connor. Hello, Amelia.
Hello, Chrism. I see I'm the Queen of Questionable Comforts again this week.
You're back to that.
I have that status returned. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here as always, and if I could just tell everybody in the chat room that I don't have access to the chat room tonight or today, so I'm unable to see the questions, but I think you can, Chrism, so type in anything that you would wish to ask, and Chrism will see it there, hopefully. So I'm sorry I can't help you with that, Chrism, tonight. So
it's okay. I understand. You have unique circumstances there today.
Yes, indeed. So, I'll begin. I will begin by again giving everybody the address that they can go to if they want to support the Kundalini Awakening Systems program and Chrism and the work that he does for people who are going through a Kundalini Awakening process, for people who are looking for information about the Kundalini. This address is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and in the upper right hand corner you will see a donate button, and from that point on it's quite easy to donate. As I always say, there is no pressure on anybody to donate. I give this information because I regularly am asked, how can a person donate? And people want to have this information. And of course, I feel it's very important to give this information, as this is, the only means really where Chrism receives financial support. He doesn't actually charge for anything that he does. And so that selfless service is there for everybody who comes and looks for information and comes for teaching. So with deep gratitude to Chrism for this selfless service to the Kundalini and to everybody who the Kundalini brings to this information. So if you're in a position to support this work, please do so. And if you are not able to, blessings to you too. I'm going to just give that address again. It's www.ascension- kundalini.blogspot.com. And again, if you just Google Ascension Kundalini Blogspot, the address will come up for you. So that's my announcement, Chrism, and I'm very much, as always, looking forward to the show and what will unfold and the teachings that you will have for us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Amelia. But I would like to say, for those of you that have attended a seminar, you know that you had to pay to get into that seminar. And I have to reiterate again that these payments go towards the putting on of the seminar. I am allowed to do a seminar. I'm allowed to teach. I'm allowed to give Shaktipat. I cannot charge for Shaktipat. The only thing that the Kundalini allows me to take donations for are the teachings. Everything else goes into overhead, and advertising is a huge cost. As Eileen or Rosemary or Edie G, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, they may tell you that that is actually one of the biggest costs there is in putting on a Kundalini Awakening seminar, letting people know that this is coming to them and this is available to them. And so
Chrism, there's flights and things. There's a lot of overheads that need to be covered because, like, when you come to Europe, that doesn't happen by magic. So that has to be covered too, you know. You don't quite tell.
So people know that, you know, especially those who've taken the seminar, such as Julia and Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and you know, some of the other folks. It costs. Rosemary, bless her heart, you know, she has sequestered the same wonderful hotel that we used for the last Minnesota seminar, and we're going to be going there again in the third week of February. So looking forward to that as well. And Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez has put together a seminar event in Washington State at a place called Port Townsend. It's in a castle at Port Townsend, and that is going to be a very, you know, interesting seminar as well. And I believe that there's some interest in putting on a seminar in London, and Magdalene de Deus is organizing a seminar in Switzerland. And this will be done in one of those Swiss chalets, which you know, they're very beautiful countryside, beautiful people. And of course, Magdalene is just loaded with grace, and she spreads that freely, as does Amelia. So, and if anybody would like to participate in those venues, please contact me at kfireforall, KFIREFORALL @yahoo.com. Let's go ahead and begin. I read to you a little bit about heaven and how it is such a powerful level of energy that one of the things that we have to transform into, we have to transform our physical being. And I was just reading about this yesterday. Let me see if I even have it here. I went, no, I don't. Somebody has compared me to a person named Apollonius of Tirana. And this person was on an ascension format, an ascension platform, meaning that his work and his Kundalini and his connection with the divine transformed his body, dematerialized it to the point where he ascended into heaven, taking the body with him. There were no remains for this person. And this person lived at the same time as Jesus Christ and was a contemporary, actually. They both met. But he was another person who really followed. If you read any of the writings of Apollonius of Tirana, basically he was doing the same thing Jesus was, just in different areas. You know, as the Bible says, the Christian Bible says, Christ says to the people, says, "These things I do, you can do and more." Well, Apollonius of Tirana was doing that and more. And so was John the Baptist. So, you know, a lot of people were were in that area at that time and are in this area at this time too. Okay? You need to understand that just because that happened 2,000 years ago doesn't mean that, oh, everything just stopped for 2,000 years and here we come up to the present. No, it never stopped. It never stopped. It just became less, shall we say, less observed. It became more dangerous to do such things, so that, you know, your life would have been in jeopardy if you were to demonstrate miracles during the Spanish Inquisition, for instance, or there were some miracles that were shown by the Merovingian dynasty, the witch kings of the Merovingians, and they had long hair, and they knew about honeybees, and they knew about Kundalini. Okay, and so this has continued since before the time of Christ, way before. You know, we're talking about the Tua de Danann, we're talking about the Furbolg, we're talking about the Melosians, we're talking about the Partholonians, that these were the people that just inhabited Ireland and Spain and Great Britain and parts of France, the Brittany area of France, as well as other areas. And so the Kundalini expression has been constant within the, shall we say, the European races, as well as some of the races that went down with certain continents that were enveloped by a geological upheaval. So Kundalini is continuous within our expression, and so don't be surprised that you have it or that you have come across a person who has it. The problem these days is so many people want to have it that they begin to fabricate unawareness. They begin to fabricate having Kundalini. They begin to design and to be inauthentic in their expression and their desire to be known for something. You know, basically an ego-based scenario. And some of them, were absolutely right on. Ramana Maharshi, Yogananda, Sri Aurobindo, Ramakrishna, I think I mentioned him, Vivekananda, and all these guys were at the beginning of the last century. Yogananda, I think he died in the 50s. It's not common since Yogananda really to be in the presence of a Kundalini awakened master, except for Gopi Krishna. Gopi Krishna definitely had an awakening, and he's the one that really brought it into the Western world. If you want to read a book about what not to do within a Kundalini awakening, well, read Gopi Krishna's book of Kundalini and the evolutionary energy in man. You can get that on Amazon, and that's a description of how bad it can go, how it can almost, really just kill you if you resist and resist and resist. As Gopi Krishna, not having a teacher, just having the Kundalini itself, but not wanting to listen to it, letting his ego take the control away from his inner divine. That can be a deadly equation, and I would suggest nobody do that. Nobody, certainly not, anybody who's listening to us right now. I would like to ask the chat room folks, Julie, Julia, Fashji, Lorne, MJ Henderson, Steve, and Suka, how is the sound quality? Could you just type it out there? I'm looking here right now at the chat room here, and if you could, thank you, Lauren. Thank you very much. It's always been an issue, as some of you who have followed this program for a while, you know that we're not always spot on with the technology. So, and you'll hear my chair squeaking a little bit too. I got a squeaky chair. It's important for you to begin to discern the truth from the lie. Okay, discerning the truth from the lie is one of the most important attributes that the Kundalini brings, and it is that which brings out the frightening aspects of your early Kundalini awakening. That's what the entities are about a lot of the time. Is First of all, even to see an entity, have a head pop out of the wall, that just freaks you out alone. That alone, will send you straight to the emergency room, straight to the psych ward. If you see a head come out of your bedroom wall and then stare at you or start talking to you, that can really rock your world, absolutely rock your world, and that alone. And then, but if you get through that, which you will get through that, having knowledge, having information is power over the fear that you may feel. But as you get through that, and you start listening to what they say, you can begin to discern the truth from the lie. Some of them are very, very obvious in their manipulations towards anti-ethical or unethical, immoral actions, activities, or ideologies. And this goes straight up with the ET as well. ET is very interested in Kundalini, and we're having a discussion right now in one of the secret groups. ET is very, very, very interested in Kundalini, and whether, some of them may have a matrix type of siphoning, like an entity would, a spiritual entity would. Some of them are trying to use it to augment their own technology, creating wormholes or, things of that nature. But for the most part, divinity is looking at you, my friends. Divinity is looking at you and how you respond. The more trust you have in your Kundalini, forget about entities, forget about ET. Really, the only focus that you want to have is on the divine expression within you. And the positive levels of surrender that you can give into that divine equation that you are part of now. You are being built and developed into a bridge between the mundane and the divine. And that takes a very, 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 very strong level of surrender for a person to even begin to engage in that. And talking a little bit about that on the some of the Facebook groups. And I'd like to go ahead and go through the groups right now. We have Kundalini Awakening ! We have Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Healing on the Facebook network. We have Kundalini Healing and Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 on the Yahoo network. We have Kundalini Awakening ! On the Google Plus network. We have Chrism Kundalini on the YouTube network. That's about 304 videos. And I'll strongly suggest that anybody that's really serious about this, you watch every single one of those videos. Do not skip them. Go back and watch some twice. If you're having a dark night soul, look at the DNS videos. If you're having issues with grieving because you've lost a loved one, then look at the grieving issue. Look at how Kundalini begins to react with you in your real life world. This is a real life thing, folks. You're not crazy. You have Kundalini. Okay? So, I would like to go ahead and welcome Her Holiness, Amelia Santara, back onto into the red zone, the Shakti zone, because she is such a red Shakti girl. There she is. Hello.
Hello, Chrism.
As following our previous arrangements that we've been doing on the last few shows, I'd like you to go ahead and ask some of the questions that you've been able to collect from the various groups.
Well, you mentioned there, about how important it is to not let ego take control away from the divine and how it requires from us a very strong level of surrender. And you actually on the group, there was one of your teachings there about is your ego ready and how the ego doesn't really know about how to surrender. And so there was a great conversation that occurred with people sharing about that. And towards the end of it, there was a question asked that I would like to just put out now, Chrism, for you to maybe speak about here. It said, in getting rid of the old patterns of behavior, is this what Kundalini plays the most part in? Is this how the transformations take place? Does Kundalini kill off the patterns from within the nervous system?
Well, I really, in the context of the Kundalini, I never use the word kill because, once again, Amelia, you're echoing now. Put you over here. Back into the Shiva blue. Yeah. So in the Kundalini context, I rarely mention the word kill or destroy or of that quality with regards to the ego. The ego is very similar to our inner child, our inner 6-year-old, and we don't kill our 6-year-olds. We just teach them a better way to express themselves. And so this is certainly what I'm suggesting that a person do with regards to breaking through the patterns that are within the consciousness. Not so much the nervous system. It's not so much about the nervous system. Nervous system is literally it's a wiring of the body. It's how the body is wired. It's not so much a container of consciousness. Consciousness uses it to allow the body to feel and to sense and things of that nature. But the nervous system itself is conscious, but it's part of the physical bodies of energetic distribution within the human system. And so, so part of the transformation is really about replacing patterns. And, for instance, I have students right now who are deeply, deeply involved in repatterning themselves through surrender and through obedience to the Kundalini and through obedience to that inner divine and to some degree to obedience to the flesh teacher as well. And it's these levels of giving and levels of surrender that really, really, really begin to alter and replace the current 5-body menu of the ego-based desires and expectations and attachments and expressions of those lower chakra levels, which is what Lasha is communicating to me right now. She wants out, and the door's wide open, so I'm not quite sure what she wants me to do. So you'll just have to go on your own, my dear. And so, with this in mind, Kundalini will ask you to go far beyond what you would normally do with regards to surrendering to itself within you and to your flesh teacher. Far beyond. Just a second here. Okay, little one. Yes, I know. Here we go. We're not going to play this game right now. Okay, all right. I literally have to block the door. Okay, so, surrendering within this context will take you far beyond what you would normally do within societal acceptance. I mean, it's way beyond that. Way beyond that. It goes far into more primal areas. It goes far further into a repatterning, a reprogramming of how you interact with life, how you interact with yourself, how you interact with the idea of divinity, how you interact with the idea of you becoming a semi-divine individual, how you begin to interact with other people with regards to service, with love, with compassion, with forgiveness. These are the hallmarks of enlightenment. These are the patterns that will replace the patterns of fear, of grudges, of hate, of easy anger, of greed, of fear of loss and want of gain. These are the patterns that will be replaced. And the Kundalini will reward a person for these efforts. I mean, you definitely feel a huge, huge, huge level of connectivity with the Kundalini. For instance, one student just yesterday. This is a person that is inside of the political arena, and this person's running for office, and went on to a website where you can go there incognito, like a troll. You can go there incognito, and you can kind of like say what you want to say about any of the candidates. And they found that the people were saying bad things about this person, and at first the person was absolutely crushed by the negative tone of the individuals that were saying this or that about them, and immediately the Kundalini shot freezing cold energy into that person's system. And this, as many of you may know, is a sign of the sacred feminine. It's a sign of the sacred feminine, and as that shot in to that person's awareness and tactile feeling, the person realized that, oh my gosh, Shakti, Kundalini is hearing this and reading this, and the Kundalini knows how I'm feeling, and that I need not be upset over this. I need not be afraid of this. I need to just trust the Kundalini. And as soon as that person began to understand that quality, a delicious warmth, loving warmth of acceptance came through that person's physical system. This is just one example about how the Kundalini will definitely let you know, in no uncertain terms, that it is listening and it is paying attention and it is watching you and it is assisting you and it is helping you. It is walking hand in hand with you as you go through some of these repatterns, reprogramming your physical system. And so it's very important for you to understand how that is working and how that is evolving within you. And as you surrender more and more and more into the process with the Kundalini on the inside and with your flesh teacher on the outside, so you have that which is within is so without, and that which is without is so within. So you're being supported in both directions, the up and the down, the outside and the inside. So it's a multi-directional support system that a person can have if they, if the Kundalini is activated or awakened within them, and they have a flesh teacher that also has active Kundalini. It's a very strong level of support. And even though with that level of support, you have your own decisions that you have to make, you have your own levels of interaction with that Kundalini, interaction with that flesh teacher that allows you to make the best choices for yourself if you are willing to go there. The more you surrender into this equation, the greater the gifts of this equation is going to be given to you. Greater levels of confidence, greater levels of strength, greater levels of health, greater levels of understanding some of the most diverse and most inexplicable equations that haunt humanity. The Kundalini will just clear it right up. But you got to give into this equation. You can't just sit back and go, okay, I went to the seminar and Chrism gave me a Shakti pod. Okay, where is it? What's going on here? It's been 5 minutes now. I wonder what's going on. You can't, first, if you haven't been doing the safeties or you haven't been practicing any of these protocols, to accept or to expect an instant blowing off of the top of your head, is really, an incorrect assumption to make, because there's no way I'm going to blow your head off. I would never, ever, ever do that. The closest I did was in the second seminar, and I'm not going to do that. That can really wreck your world, because you have no idea what it means. And for those of you that really want that type of a scenario, I suggest you go somewhere else. I will take you and I will help you and I will teach you and I will give you as much as the gift as you're able to have at that time, but I will not debilitate you by blowing off the top of your crown chakra. Not going to happen. Okay. The more you give into this equation, the more you practice the safeties, the more you practice the instructions given to you by a teacher if you have a teacher. The more you really, really, really pay attention to your Kundalini, the greater the gifts that will flow within you. And as those gifts flow into you, part of the gifting is the transformation of the 5 bodies of expression. So you'll begin to, shall we say, quicken the molecular spin of the atomic structure around you. Okay? This is called taking heaven. This is putting the body, the entire body, into a high spin ratio. Some of you know about the monatomics and the white powder gold and some of the other white powder metals. What that means is that through a chemical or an electrical or a high temperature process, pure gold has been reduced to a kind of a tan white powder, and it's in a state of high spin molecular spin, and it's very, very fragile within that state. But people, they'll stick it in a veggie cap and they'll eat it, and boom, it's going to take them into areas that are very, very profound. And these profound areas, you don't need to ingest white powder gold. I don't suggest you do it. Let me say that again. I do not suggest you take white powder gold simply because you have no refinement capability. It's just basically the embryo wanting to become, the adult in one fell swoop, and that's just not really healthy for a person. You have to go through the refinement process. You have to begin to work with the ego. You have to accept a level of repatterning within yourself, based upon those aspects of yourself that come to the fore, which the Kundalini will bring up as you begin to do the forgivenesses, as you begin to do the tolerance and the patience and the compassion and the service to others. Kundalini will bring up these areas for you to look at within yourself. Not necessarily stuff that I'm saying. It'll be stuff that's just pertinent to your equation. If you've been having a hard time with life lately, family members are attacking you, or the workplace is attacking you, and you're struggling to maintain your calm or to maintain your serenity, I want you to look at this idea of repatterning how you respond to these adverse events to your serenity. And you're going to hear my computer. It looks like the fans are turning on here. So you want to look at these. How you respond to this is really one of the major aspects of the testing that the Kundalini gives. Okay, do they respond angrily? Are they throwing things? Are they pouting? Are they crying? What are they doing? How are they responding? How is my Kundalini child responding to these events that I'm sending their way? And part of my job is to help you choose a shall we say, a more appropriate response than what your ego might want to bring up. Okay, responses that are outside of grudges, outside of anger, outside of crying, outside of being petulant, outside of being revenge-oriented, outside of responding in a way that is hurtful to the other person or the people who may be doing it, but also to themselves as an individual, also to their family, and if they have kids, to their kids. You have to begin to repattern these areas of your life. And if you're being given difficult situations that are coming up in your life, well, this is an opportunity for repatterning. Some of you may know, I asked Amelia to go in the like at 1 in the morning or later at night, and it'll be lashing rain, as she likes to say. Lashing is kind of an Irish thing. I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, lashing rain, and I'll have her go into a dark forest. A forest that surrounds a bog. And if any of you know what a bog in Ireland is a very, very ancient place that goes back to primeval Ireland. And they're so fortunate on their property there, or right next to their property, they have this bog there, and There's all kind of spiritual entities that abound in that forest. Even though the forest, it's a man-made forest. There was never a forest there before, but it's a man-made forest. And I have her go in there. And I have her sometimes go in there without a light. I want her to go in, and I want her to begin to really trust the Kundalini, to really surrender to the Kundalini, to really obliterate her fears, obliterate her concerns, obliterate the idea that somebody might discover her there, or that some sort of untoward event may happen. And she does this. She always does. Amelia's really, she really comes out like a rose. I mean, she is very capable at this right now, and it's really going well with her. Another one who is exceptionally good at this is Magdalene de Deus. You guys go onto the Facebook page and read what Magdalene de Deus puts out there. Read what these people put out there, and you'll really see a level of sanctity within their words, a level of understanding, a level of Kundalini in every syllable, in every letter of the words they're writing, because they have taken the time, they have done the work to repattern, to reprogram away from what their normal egotistic response would have been in, say, an unawakened state. And so, these are just two examples. There's plenty of others. I mean, I could sit here for the whole 2 hours naming names, right? But I'm not going to. But, this is the level of surrender that we're looking at. I'm not looking at BDSM, which means, let me remember, it means bondage, domination, sadomasochism. That's what it is. Bondage, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I'm just trying to guess here. Bondage, domination, sadomasochism. And this is really a pornography of ego-based domination and the infliction of pain and the enjoyment of having a person at your feet and at your at your mercy, so to speak. And you have the power of inflicting tremendous amounts of pain upon them. There's a movie out there right now called 50 Shades of Grey. And this has nothing to do with the Kundalini. This is just pornography. And, within a Kundalini context, I wouldn't even go near the movie. I mean, if you want BDSM, geez, Louise, save the $10 and just go on the internet. Okay. And I only bring that up because some Kundalini teachers on the internet engage in that practice and call it normal and call it, that it's a good way to teach a person about Kundalini. Well, I don't agree, because it locks a person in the lower chakras. It locks the person into the ego, and it begins to formulate around the ego ideas of domination, ideas of control, and so it makes it that much harder for that particular person to break out of that. And that's only the person that's inflicting the damage. Let's talk about the person receiving the damage. Well, through the hellacious amount of pain that they're receiving, that is stamping them into a corner, stamping them into, and through the pain, it's a forced molding of what's the word? A forced molding of a type of surrender that really has nothing to do with the Kundalini. Okay, Kundalini surrenders to the energy itself, to God, to the outside teacher, the flesh teacher. That's a very, very different deal. It's a very, very different deal, and it's far more an internal to external expression rather than an external to internal expression. And I'm going to bring Her Holiness back on. I think I've covered that somewhat. What do you think?
Yes, Chrism, I think you have covered that indeed. Shall I go on and ask another?
Please.
Okay. There are a few. So the next one that popped up here is a person with awakened Kundalini wrote about experiencing the repetition of a tune, and it was accompanied with some words that flow out of her mouth in an unfamiliar language. And, you know, it took her some courage to share that experience, and she was seeking, you know, thoughts and an understanding of why this would be for her. Could you say something about that?
You said something about chills?
No, let me say it again. No, she has had a repetition of tunes, you know, a tune of a song.
Oh, I see, a tune.
Yeah, and tunes, that's my accent. And sometimes accompanied with words, you know, unfamiliar words come out as well in a different language. And they come out of her mouth. And so she was just wondering, you know, could you say something about that, Chrism? I've had that experience as well, and I think other people have had it. So I think it would be beneficial if you could, please.
All right. So Kundalini will tie you into areas of experience that you have had in other pursuits, shall we say, other life expressions. That's one vector of something like that occurring. Another vector would be having an entity, you know, tie into one of your chakras and broadcasting a certain song or a certain language into that chakra to the point where you're able to discern it. Certainly during this, you know, during the dream state or during a trance state, that could occur. You know, there are various reasons and vectors that this might occur for a person. Sometimes a teaching is given just in syllables and vowels mixed together, such as the word Kundalini. Well, if you've never heard of the word Kundalini, you know, there's a whole litany of prayers that the word Kundalini represents, even though you won't be able to, you won't find that, you know, some people will say that it is that which is coiled within, or, you know, cave dancer, or, you know, some of these other meanings of the word Kundalini. The big ditch was the latest one I heard, which kind of made me laugh. You know, why don't we call it the Great Canal? I mean, you know, the Sanskrit language is well known for having been composed of different prayers. So when I do the prayer for those who are listening to this in their sleep, it's a prayer of removing blockages, using the elephant god or Ganesha, to use that force to help remove blockages to people who are dreaming, so that they can receive their Kundalini instructions as they listen to this program in their sleep, which I will say right now, simply because it's come to mind, and I'm going to go ahead and just take that moment right now. Kevin Kevina Mupama Shavastamam Jay Shtarajam Brahmina Brahmina Naspet Alahana Semban TBC the Saranam. For those of you who hear this in the sleep, let that prayer remove the blockages that you may have acquired during your day or during your night or during your life. Let the contents of your Kundalini come forward. Let the wisdoms of grace permeate your soul. Open beyond the ego as you traverse the transcendental states during your sleep. And so as the people begin to mouth these syllables begin to change the frequency of the energetic response of the Kundalini within them. It doesn't have to mean anything to you. As you surrender to your Kundalini, as you surrender to the words that are coming through, as you surrender to the music that is coming through you, certain levels of change are occurring. Certain levels of memories may be reoccurring. Certain levels of evolution may be happening to you. I've been getting visions about Elizabeth's seminar in Washington State, where the Kundalini is indicating more singing, more of a vocal vector of Shaktipat. Just to share a little bit about that. And so, you know, of course, I've been hard at work putting together, you know, certain certain combinations of sounds and words and melody that will allow the vector of Shaktipat to be given. Okay, and so the Kundalini will do this. Sometimes, as in Gopi Krishna's case, you'll just start speaking a language that you've never ever had come to you before. Gopi Krishna was writing poetry in German and in French and in English and in other languages that he'd never spoken before. He was a Hindu guy. He spoke Hindi with some Sanskrit. Okay? So Kundalini has the ability to bring higher levels of consciousness through the individual. And you notice Gopi Krishna was writing poetry. He wasn't writing business contracts. Okay, that wouldn't have occurred. Okay, he was writing poetry, and as you, for those of you that have the Kundalini Awakening within them, you'll know that poetry just seems to flow with the Kundalini. It's a way of communicating. It's a way of allowing grace to join itself to the spoken word, because there's feeling in it, there's visuals in it, there's levels of divine expression that come through poetry. Look at Rilke, R-I-L-K-E. Read some of Rilke's poetry. Read some of Rumi's poetry. Rumi has a lot of that in his poetry. But so does Rilke. Johannes Rilke, something like that. His poetry is also very, very, very standout, in a very Kundalini way. So understand that you will be given teachings along the levels and vectors in ways that you have never, ever thought would come your way. I mean, how many of you would think that, oh my gosh, I'll be writing poetry in Swahili tomorrow? How cool is that? It's not a common form of learning, and yet Kundalini is not a common energy to have. And so as you have this come forward through you, feel your discernment first. Feel if it is coming through your Kundalini. The Kundalini, as it did with the political person, it will let you know in pretty soft or abrupt terms that this is from the Kundalini. If there is any other kind of form of malignancy or maliciousness or immoral type of scenarios, you need to discern that as well. And if you feel that, well, you just change that channel. You just change that channel. That's just a test of your discernment. And as I was saying to one of my students earlier today, you own your space. You own your space. You own your body. No entity, no ET gets to have control over you. I don't care how many government vans are following you around. Okay? You own your space. You own it. And you claim it. And you take it. You have seniority over everything that is behind your eyes and from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet. You own who you are. And that's final. Nobody gets to take you over. Nobody gets to use you. Nobody gets to siphon your energy. Okay? I hope I'm clear on that. Am I clear on that, Amelia?
Yes, Chrism, you're clear on that indeed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you are clear on that. Yeah. I remember for myself when I had, some tunes and words sing out of my mouth, it was Sanskrit, but I had the Kundalini I didn't need to understand what it was. And when I would have heard Sanskrit words from you and other Sanskrit words, I would have gone into bliss. I remember that at the time. It was a communication from the Kundalini, and I totally understand what you're saying about it. The changing of the frequencies within. An interesting thing that happened for me too was out of the blue. Sometime later, I discovered that there was a Sanskrit class a language class available in an Irish city, which was quite amazing how that came about. And of course, it was Kundalini guided me to that information in the first place. But yeah, so the Sanskrit language was part of it for me very much at the beginning as well.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. The Sanskrit is a very, very holy language. It's poetry itself. It's poetry, it's music, it's prayer, all wrapped up into a language. And it's considered a dead language. The civilization that developed the Sanskrit language, the Sanskriti people, no longer exist as a civilization. Their oral history has outlived them by about 2,000, maybe even more than 2,000 years. Their oral history is what is remaining of the Sanskriti people, and the language has outlived the civilization. The Hindi people now that partake of the Sanskrit people as their ancestors are completely different within their understandings of spirituality, their understandings of grace. The rishis, the people that authored the Rig Veda and some of the other Vedas, they no longer exist within the continuum of time that we have, that we're operating from right now. Of course, those who are, of the rishis who became Kundalini awakened, you step outside of time. Time no longer exists for those who are no longer part of that continuum. It is a stream. It's like a river. You can step out of the river. Okay? And when you step out of the river, you step out of time. And so in that context, the rishis are very much alive, and they're very much, doing what they're doing. Okay. So, yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. That's wonderful, Amelia. Next question.
Well, there's been a discussion about UFOs, and you've mentioned it there, and I put down 3 questions that came up, Chrism, so I'll just read those all together, if I may.
No. One at a time, please.
No? Is that okay?
One at a time.
One at a time. Okay. How do you stop UFOs from following you around everywhere? Well,
because the UFO, the intelligence that is shall we say, following a person, it's not just people that have free will. Okay, that you can follow around a mosquito if you want. The mosquito's not going to be able to do too much about it. You can follow the hunters. The hunters that just love to kill things. They track deer, they track the bear, they track the animals that they want to kill. Wildlife photographers, they do the same thing. They follow the herd. They get as close to the hyenas or the lions or the zebras or the of the animal that they're interested in. Even though they're just going to take a picture of it, to the animal, if the animal had like a human within a human context, it'd be going, "Oh my God, did you see that thing? It looked like this really big eye pressed up against something's head. And it's following me. Oh, and it makes these little clickety sounds. It's so weird." So you can imagine how the animal would feel if, when we follow them around with a camera. Or when, as we drive a car past, or, any of the things that we do with the animals is just as easily done to us by an intelligence that has a greater level of technology. And a lot of people, as I've said, a lot of people that have Kundalini attract a lot of attention because it's not common for physical organisms to be able to go from zero to divinity. Okay, humans get to do that. That's part of the, shall we say, the reward of going from the lower primate, a person that's just interested in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? And just breeding and consuming and breeding and consuming into a person who is incorporating some of those themes, but also bringing in higher concepts of spiritual transition, of religious discipline, and then moving on up into meditation and moving on up into some of the higher chakra expressions over a series of lifetimes. Just because you have the body and you died, it's not a one-time gig. Sometimes the contract is for the whole human expression, which means that you will stay locked into this game until you graduate from it. I.e., however many lifetimes it takes for you to come into the grace of the divine, then that's what it will take for you to come into the grace of the divine. And that is when you get to exit the game. That is when you no longer have to live another lifetime. That is when you can move on. Now, within this process of coming closer and into a greater level of divine interaction, you're going to attract entities that don't necessarily, first of all, one of the things they can't understand is why anybody would want to go into such blindness. Why anybody would want to only have 5, possibly 6 senses, and sacrifice all the other senses that are able to be utilized outside of the human, the frail, F-R-A-I-L, the frail human systems. Oh my gosh, why would you do that? So there's a lot of interest that a person with Kundalini has, because a person with the Kundalini is at that flowering point, that point of flowering that has taken so many lifetimes, so many lessons, so much human expression to gain, and then here they are. Now they're starting to flower. Oh my gosh, this is the divine unity that is occurring now, and that generates a lot of interest in not only spiritual entity, angelic entity, but also of UFO types of entities. The UFOs have been with us for a long time. Who do you think put those animal images in the plains of Peru, the Nazca Plains? Okay, it wasn't the Incas. I got news for you. Who was it that drew those lines on the Nazca Plains, those almost like airport type of lines? It wasn't the Incas. They didn't have that technology. They walked in to the technology that another race left there. Okay? So you might consider that if you ever go to Peru and you go to Cusco and you look at the Inca wall there and you say, oh my gosh, it's so precise, it's so perfect. Incas didn't build that. They walked into that technology. Now I know I'm stepping on a lot of toes here, so my apologies if your feet are hurting. But go there and start looking with your Kundalini. Open your Kundalini eye, the triple eye that you have, the eyes on either side of your nose and the eye right above it, the Trinity eyes. Look at archaeological evidence with all 3 eyes, and you'll understand what I'm talking about. With regards to ET, they've been here for so long, and they're watching. There's one guy down there in L.A., Los Angeles, United States, and I believe he's a native Peruvian, and he was walking in the Himalayas one day, and the ET actually made contact with him and awakened his Kundalini. And then, helped him to learn how to live with it and to be with it and to do, things like that. And now he has this big group of people down in Los Angeles that take trips down to the Andes to make contact with the ETs. I forget his name, I'm sorry. Maybe not the way that I would go with it, because I don't necessarily want to have any kind of an attachment to ET. I could understand that if they activated somebody's Kundalini within a great level appreciation and gratitude would be given towards those ETs for that type of a situation, just by virtue of the level of divine love that comes through a person when they have that spinal sweep and so on. But I don't know that anybody else has been activated that way. Once again, I feel that the best way to activate is through refinement of the soul, as somebody else was calling it, the fire, the crucible of fire, or something like that. To open it up, the refiner's fire. The refiner's fire is what they're calling it, which is quite appropriate. It's a very appropriate term to use with regards to the Kundalini, and that is the way to come into the Kundalini. And one of my students, they've gone through Christianity, they've gone through certain forms of Buddhism, they've gone through these different levels of understanding, and it has really augmented their Kundalini awakening experience. It has allowed them certain levels of freedom because they've already undone a lot of the ego programming that has occurred. And they're able to follow their inner guidance. They're able to do this type of a teaching, to receive this type of a teaching. And they're doing very well. Very, very, very well. As can you. Any of you who are listening to this, in the archives right now, those who are sleeping, those who are on the chat room right now, anybody can do this. This is not outside of your ability, simply because you're hearing this information. I'm not very well known. It may seem like that because on Facebook and whatnot, but I'm not. Geez Louise, look at how many groups are on Facebook. I mean, come on. So you can do these things. And these entities, these ETs, just like the giraffe isn't going to do anything to take away the human photographer, neither will we be able to take away from those ETs who want to follow our progress as we have the Kundalini. The best thing you could do is ignore them, just as I have you do with the entities. You take them out of your level of concern. You take them out of your space by changing your perspective and the amount of attachment that you have on their presence within your equation. They're just learning about this. Sure, they got a great high technology. They can float around a little energy ball. BFD. If they were really brave, if they really wanted to know, they'd take a human body too, from birth to ascension. But they're just chicken, or they're lazy. Okay? A lot of entities just refuse to do it. They're just going to sit there with their camera and they're just going to take pictures and then make their interpretations based upon what they observe. But for the real understanding of what it is to go from zero to ascension, you have to do it. Not watch it. You have to do it. And it is there for all of you to do. You're sitting on your enlightenment if you're sitting right now. Okay? Did I answer that well enough, Your Holiness?
You did. Yes, you did. And you kind of answered the next one, which was, are they attracted? Are UFOs attracted to a person's Kundalini in the same way as entities are?
Well, they're attracted to the energetic signature. They're attracted to they want to try to, some of them want to try to figure out a way to use divine energy to work with their technology. Okay. There's a woman out there, I don't know if she's still alive or what, but she wrote something called The Chrism of Lyra. The Chrism of Lyra, Lyra. Prism of Lyra, Lyra. Her name is Melody Roberts or something like that, but The Prism of Lyra is the title of the book. It has my Kundalini led me to this book, in an old bookstore, it's all, they're selling off all their books because they were going out of business, and Melody Royal, Royal. And it's a pretty good description of how things are going with ET out there. And I don't usually go with channeled information, as many of you know. I am not fond of channeled information, but my Kundalini gave me a pretty good boost to read this one. I was given to read this one, and so I read it and I absorbed it and I looked at it and I related to how it is here at this current time. There are a lot of ETs that are visiting here. Certainly, as you go down to John of God's down there in Brazil. I mean, John of God's Casa de Dominacio, the house of Saint Ignatius, down there in Abadiânia, Brazil, is basically right over a big, I mean, people have seen the ships go into the side of the hill right there. I mean, this is in the Mato Grosso. It's kind of way out from anywhere, and you know, they have the main highway connecting it with Brasilia and with other cities to the east. But John of God, you know, I mean, they go right on in, and there used to be a picture hanging up on his wall that they took down, and it was Christ. It was a picture of Christ, and with a giant spaceship behind him. And as I came down there, I've been down there 3 times now, and as I came down there, I literally saw E.T. E.T. takes the form of saints in the Catholic tradition, because most of the people that are there in Abadiânia are of a Catholic persuasion, and so these ETs take the position of a saint, you know, Saint Ignatius or Saint whatever the heck, right? And they come in there as healers, or they disguise themselves, say, as one of the ETs that I worked with was named Dr. Augusto, and that's how he would say his name. Soy Dr. Augusto, and you know, very, very tall, very, very kind of thin, wearing you know, surgery gowns just to hide most of their physique, about 14, 15 feet tall. But I have to say, they do good work. They do good work. I received a healing in 20 seconds just out of testing them. I just wanted to test them, see if they were any good. And they're good, I gotta say. You know, if you've got something that the MDs are going, oh well, you better get your affairs in order, Chrism. I think you're not going to make it. And, you know, you've got 6 months to live or something like that. You hop that jet down to Abadiânia and you play by the rules. I don't care if you're Catholic or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever your persuasion is. You go down there, you play by the rules, you say the Hail Marys, you say whatever the heck. I wasn't Catholic, but I went down there and I played it by the rules. And I received, okay. And it was quite nice to find a place where you could, you know, some of the worst traumas that a person can have, you know, like what's that word? A growth on your brain, like not an abscess, but like a growth on your brain can be removed while you're standing up, and he's pulling it out with what looks like to be the tool you use to take hot dogs out of the boiling water. You know, he's just grabbing hunks of this tumor and pulling it out. They got it on video, which is the weird thing, is because you're standing in line and you're watching these brain surgery videos, and you're going, oh my God, he's not doing that to my head. I tell you what, he's not going to do that. Remember that?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Sticking that stuff up your nose and then twisting and hearing it go. You just kind of go,
yeah,
not my.
That's why I didn't tell him about my thyroid nodule.
Ain't gonna happen. I tell you what, I was getting pretty nervous. I didn't know, you know, whether once you're standing in line my first time there, whether or not you have to do it, right? And I was going,
that's right.
There's no way he's gonna scrape my eye with that rusty steak knife. And I have to say, you know, they're as good as their word. As long as you play by the rules, then you have a pretty good opportunity of getting rid of some of or all of that that death invoking disease that you may have. And this is for those listening right now, but also those in the archives who are listening about this. And so these are all ETs disguising themselves as Dr. Augusto or Saint Ignatius or King Solomon. King Solomon comes through, and but a lot of goodness is done there. A lot, I have to say. It's getting a little corrupt now because the entities are beginning to, and I mean the UFO entities are beginning to run the town. So all the taxis have to charge a certain rate because la entidade, or the entity. The entity says, well, you can't charge more than this or that, and you have to go through us in order to, and the town is split in half because of it. And so there's a lot of commercialism kind of corrupting the whole process down there, but it I have to say, if you play by the rules and you forget about what you think you should be doing with regards to AMA-based medical systems, you can receive quite a bit.
Yeah, and also, Chrism, when I was down there, my own Kundalini, there was a huge response in my own Kundalini as well when I was there.
How did you respond? What was the response?
Well, when I was there and I was sitting in the meditation room, I can't remember what it was called. There was this particular word for it, but you went in there. It was
the cuarto de entidade.
Yes. Well, when I was in there,
yeah.
Yes, the Kundalini within me, radiated to people that I could feel that, and went from me to people. That's what I mean. I could feel the Kundalini in me when I was in the room on my own. And I think a lot of the visions and things that occurred to me there was through my own Kundalini allowing that.
Yeah. It was very. I enjoyed it. I recommend it to anybody. I mean, it's free.
Yeah.
All you have to do is provide your, the airfare down there from the United States. I believe I was able to get a round trip ticket at that time for $700 or $800, and I was working at that time, so I was able to earn that. And I don't know what it cost you, Amelia, to go from Ireland to there, but a lot of people from Europe, from Scotland, from Australia, from the United States and Japan, and a lot of people go there to get those healings.
There's a lot of Irish people go there actually, through with cancer and different things. What was interesting as well was that, for sure, what you're saying about the hills around the casa in Abidjan, I can't pronounce it. Well, the hills around there, definitely you could feel a frequency that is very different to other places. I mean, it was definitely ET, a vibration. I mean, yeah.
I was finding double terminated quartz crystals about 3 inches long on the ground. The place is riddled with quartz crystal. And I have this weird crystalline substance that when I was there, it would rain every day. It would rain every day at a certain time, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, downpour of rain. And I loved it. And I'd go out to the hill, which is called the Point, and you'd see these rivulets of glitter just flowing down the hillside. And I collected some of that glitter, and I still have it to this day over here. I'm not quite sure what to use it for.
I have some as well.
So entity doesn't have to be a negative. UFO entity does not have to be a negative. It can be a very positive, grace-based scenario. There are the Tao still exists outside of the body. Within the first 2 levels of the astral, the Tao exists, and there are entire civilizations that exist within the astrals, and that group that is working through John of God down there in Abidjan, Brazil, is one of those civilizations that are doing this. And it is all basically towards the same goal that we're operating from right here. It is towards enlightenment. The reason why so much interest is taken with us is because we can go all that way from right here, right now. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. You're going from physicality straight to divinity. You're bypassing lower astral, mid astral, upper astral, causal, mental. You're going straight into the divine. That's a big jump. That is a big, huge bridge. That's what Kundalini is doing. That's what Apollonius of Tirana was doing. That's what the Christ was doing. That's what Buddha was doing. It's a big deal. And for those of you that have it, Diavi, Fashji, MJ, Madeva, Steve Jerky, you guys are on this path. You should just don't kiss the mirror in a non-egotistical way. You should be so appreciative of what is happening to you and the opportunity that you have. Really go back and listen to what I said about repatterning and really begin to repattern. Become devotional. Become totally surrendered to this. Let this dominate your expression, your life expression on this world. And if E.T. wants to follow you around, just, ignore them. It's just like the photographer following the giraffe. That's another question. Oh, it looks like we have a question.
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that might be Rosemary. Anyway, Amelia?
Well, you've really answered the next one, I think, which was, is it possible that they want to communicate for a positive purpose, or are they up to no good?
I would say most of them are probably up to no good. If they're inflicting their presence upon you, knowing that it causes you fear or anxiety or concern, and they just don't care. To me, that is not a very advanced soul, or they're up to no good. It doesn't mean that you're automatically a victim because they can floating around in an orange ball. Not at all. You're not a victim. You're not a victim at all. You just ignore them. They get too close, tell them to leave. It's like flies or mosquitoes. Okay? And I don't care, like one of the people, they got a government van following them around, or a convoy of vans, that's just those are the part of our government is controlled by UFO, by ET. Okay, the black ops people, the people that are totally beholden to those that own the what do they call them? The grays, the reptilians, that type of scenario. And there are good reptilians and bad reptilians and all of this. And a very famous doctor was in the Amazon region one time, and a UFO crashed. And, this information has been squelched, but I'll go ahead and tell it to you here. And so the Brazilian Air Force was on it big time, and black ops people were searching for this craft because they wanted the engineering, they wanted to capture the what they call an extraterrestrial biological entity, or an EBE. They wanted to catch that EBE and either extract information or something like that from him. So the EBE was on the run, but it was injured. And this doctor found the EBE, and it was a form of a reptilian, different than some of the stuff that David Icke talks about. I think his name is David Icke. Anyway, this EBE was telepathic with the doctor, and the doctor looked into the eyes of the EBE, and the EBE transmitted this information. It said, "You have no idea how powerful you are. You have no idea the level of grace and ability that you have, you must look within. That is where your power is. And that was before he died. Last words of that EBE. And so this is the Kundalini, folks. This is what we're talking about. This is what that EBE was talking about. Apollonius of Tirana was raising the dead. Apollonius of Tirana was levitating. Apollonius of Tirana was helping people. Apollonius of Tirana, he had telepathy. He had all these qualities that many Kundalini people have as well. Just like the Christ. Tirana is spelled Tyrana. Apollonius, well, you'll just have, I think that's Apollonius. Look him up on Google. Okay. Next question, my dear.
Okay, well, can I just ask another question there about ETs? So you're saying that there are good ETs, in inverted commas, and bad ETs. And so you're saying some ETs will come and observe us, and do others come then to experience, as it were, the Kundalini, because they can't have it and they try and intrude into our bodies? Do they do that?
Other UFO style entities actually want to possess the body. And I've had one person come to me in the act of that possession. And she was slowly but surely being taken over right in front of her husband, right in front of her two kids. And, the kids would say, "Mommy has cat eyes sometimes. We don't know why." And she was given to do some very, very bad things. She was given to lie. She was given to manipulate. She was given to abuse. It turned into a very, very, very unfortunate scenario, and there was really nothing I could do. I was not allowed to extract that entity. It's terrible to watch that occur. And so some are here for absolutely malicious, evil, horrible reasons. And a lot of them hang out at the national level, the capital level. A lot of them are infecting the presidents, because you got to remember, the presidents and the senators and the Congress people, they're just regular people that have a little bit more ego than the rest, and they want to lead the country, right? But they have no idea of spirituality. They have no idea of energetic dynamics. They don't even know about their own energetic anatomy. They're like little 3-year-olds wearing a congressional badge. Putting their hand on the atomic switch. These entities are basic, a lot of them are calling the shots in our national government. A lot of them. Obama, you can't blame Obama. The poor guy is just possessed. Same with all of them. Go back, you go back to Bush Jr., Bush Sr., Clinton, you name it. There's a lot of manipulation that's going on right now. Ebola is another manipulation. You think that just happened accidentally in Africa? And you think that they just accidentally ignored it when it came out in March? And here we are in October, and everybody's going, "Oh, we waited too long." Well, of course they did. Of course they did. And then, it sounds very conspiracy theorist type of things that I'm saying right here. But, when you look beyond the veil, you can see the truth. And the truth is not always as your newspaper might tell you. It's not always, fluffy bunnies and cotton candy and hot dogs and apple pie and the American way. It isn't that way for the most part. Okay? It's a predatory universe, multiverse. It's a big aquarium. And you have to stand for your virtues. It's the virtues, the noble qualities that allow you not to fall into the arms of disaster in this way. This is why I'm teaching people the noble qualities, the virtuous qualities. These are the things that keep you connected to the divine union. This is why it's so important for people with the Kundalini to go the moral, the ethical route. Even if it seems wrong or cliche or any of that, I don't care. You walk those ethical steps. You walk that morality as you know morality to be. Morality for a Bushman of Africa is not the same morality as a Native American, is not the same morality as an Aboriginal, is not the same morality as somebody in Northern California. I mean, and you know, if you really want to stretch it, you know, the morality of Irish. Oh my God. I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're not.
So the scenario is the safety protocols are far more that than you can even ever imagine. Now, I went up to Mount Shasta with the specific purpose of contacting ET. This was in 1986. Took a week off of work, drove up there in my Datsun B210, parked outside of a bookstore and asked, well, what's the best way to go up the mountain? Oh, well, you just got to go around the mountain and follow your heart. Oh, thank you. So I went up as high as I could go with the car, and then I started climbing a ridge. And I came upon an unexploded anti-tank missile that had been shot up there for avalanche control, and so I was able to locate that, and then I took a sheriff's officer up to that later on. But as I continued my climb beyond that missile, I went to about the 10,500 or maybe the 11,000 foot area, and there was a perfect little semicircle in the rocks there, a perfect place to just camp. I couldn't go up on the glacier because I didn't have crampons, and crampons are what gives you traction on ice, and I didn't have that, so I knew I wasn't going to be able to go up to the glacier, but I figured, what the heck, okay, I'm here. And so I went into meditation. I meditated till about 3 o'clock in the morning. I meditated to contact ET. And finally I fell asleep. And I thought, well, geez Louise, I guess they're not here for me. So walked back down the hill. As I mentioned, I took the sheriff deputy up, and they took control of that unexploded missile. And I walked back down, and in the newspaper that day's newspaper, state troopers and sheriff's department, California Highway Patrol had all reported lights flying around Mount Shasta that night. And so, who knows? Maybe I'm really just an E.T. An E.T. with a beard.
Good disguise.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ebola. Ebola. Can I ask about that? You said that groups that Kundalini can change its structure in the awakening person.
Well,
would you speak a bit about that?
Yeah, the Ebola, any virus that the Kundalini doesn't want you to have will not have the deadly expression that it would have on another person. That's the bottom line. You can feel Kundalini change the expression of a virus within you. You just feel it. It changes the energetic frequency of the auric anatomy. It's kind of like the way you feel your skin, your arms, your legs, your hair, your eyes, the inside of your mouth with your tongue, your tummy as you're digesting, or say if you're ill in your tummy and you have to run to the bathroom, whatever. These sensate equations are expanded into the auric field, and so when I would work in the hospitals and I'd go into these rooms that are or into the ceilings that are lots of viruses and bacteria, because they never clean the ceilings in hospitals. Hello, everybody. They never clean the ceilings. and so all this stuff is kind of growing up there, and MRSA and all of that stuff. I could feel the Kundalini just reach out and change it. Reach out. You'd feel like, for me, it felt like a ray of heat would just reach out and change it. I didn't feel a death of it. I just felt that it was changed to a degree that it wouldn't affect me in a negative way. And this, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's polio, whether it's Ebola, whether it's the measles, mumps, rubella, whether it is yellow fever or typhus or you name it. The Kundalini chooses whether it wants you to experience that. The further you go into grace, the better it becomes. This is the bottom line. The further you go into your Kundalini, the further you surrender into your Kundalini, the further you surrender to that teacher that the Kundalini has given to you. I'd say my students, right? Well, it's not really true. It's the Kundalini that has chosen me as their teacher. So in that sense, yes, I can say my students, but it's really the Kundalini. It's the Kundalini students. And as you go further into devotion, as you go further into surrender, as you prostrate yourself to the Kundalini, as you prostrate yourself to this energetic divine infusion within you, yeah, you're going to be able to beat almost any disease. But you don't kill it. It just changes. We got to get off of this whole killing idea. I wrote in the group the other day that, divinity is what gave us the idea of ahimsa, do no harm, do not kill. Why do you think it's just like all of a sudden kill our ego? Kill our lower self, our unihipili, as the Huna people say. It's not going to kill anything. It's there for you to train. It is there for you to work with. It is there for you to make the choice and lift the finger and do the work. And that includes giving yourself to the Kundalini, giving yourself to that teacher, really opening yourself into this paradigm. Okay? Next question, my dear.
Okay, thank you, Chrism. Okay, so there was a question about Kriyas. It's very straightforward that she's looking for it. Yes, why would Kundalini want someone else to see me have a Kriya?
Why would the Kundalini want someone else to see me? Well, the Kundalini doesn't really care about, unless it affects your health, your safety, or your livelihood. The Kundalini, you can have Kriyas in front of anybody. They'll just think you're a little weird. Maybe you got a little spasticity. Oh, they might have a little compassion for you. It's like, oh God, look at that guy with the beard. Oh God, what? Oh my gosh, God, that must be something like Tourette's. They have no clue. So the Kundalini isn't really motivated by your modesty or that everybody should see you as a normal, perfect person. They can have question marks about, your health or your level of spasticity if it's a Kriya. It's not concerned with that. It's far more concerned with having its energy transform your physical system. Putting together that pattern of response upon the body. So here's the deal. The Kriyas come. The Kriyas aren't just, the Kriyas put in to the body the platform that the Kundalini uses to transform the body. Okay, I'll say that again. The Kriyas place into the body the platform that Kundalini uses to transform the body. Okay, everybody has their own timeline with the Kriyas. Some people will get over it in 6 weeks. Some people won't get over it in 6 years. Some people will be electrocuted every day of those 6 years, and some people won't even feel anything. They'll be put into yoga positions in their sleep. Some people get a little bit of the both, like me. Okay? So whether or not you place yourself in a position where a Kriya comes and it happens in front of other people, Kundalini doesn't care. Unless, of course, it's going to harm your life, harm your sustainability, harm your activities on this world that support the Kundalini. The most important thing is your ascension. How people think about you, that's not so important. Unless, as I said, it affects your ascension platform. Okay, Kundalini doesn't have that kind of concern unless it affects you in a negative way. So, for instance, let's say I'm a professional driver we'll just say I'm a school bus driver, right? Well, the Kundalini won't necessarily let me have Kriyas while I'm driving that bus loaded with kids. Okay? But as I'm standing around waiting for the kids to come on board and people are, talking with me and, there's a Kriya, well, that's a different story. Okay? It's a smart energy. It's a conscious energy. It is self-aware and it is intelligent. It knows the person better than they know themselves, so of course it knows when it's appropriate to give a Kriya and when it isn't. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Chrism. The next one is about dreaming. It's not so much a question, but it's that, in the groups, sometimes we have dreams that are almost like movies, in the quality of how we receive the dream. And so, I suppose my question is, how are we to interpret dreams as being, say, symbolic and maybe being potentially real-life happenings that are to come? How do we interpret dreams in that way? How do we know whether they're symbolic or potentially real-life?
Oh, I see, like a prophetic dream, right?
Yes.
Is the prophetic dream real? Is it going to happen? It can be. It can be absolutely real that it's going to happen, but there's another meaning. There's another meaning to it. So let's just take that dream I think you're talking about, and there's a group of people that are gathered together, somewhere in the world, and they're gathered together as a way of creating energetic change. So these are all Kundalini awakened people, and they're gathered together as a core group of manifestation that is to give a specific frequency of manifestation upon this world. Because World War III, or because nuclear bombs, or because some sort of a thing is going to happen, and the Kundalini individuals are gathered together to begin to modulate these changes, these transformations. I see no problem with that. I would like that to happen tomorrow. Okay? I see no problem with that. And when I do these seminars, that's exactly what is occurring. It's exactly what is occurring. So for those of you that want to be part of that manifestation change, the initiation of the Kundalini into the conscious expression of humanity on this world, then come to these seminars. As I said, the next one's going to be in Minnesota. Contact Rosemary Goliath. And her number is 651-452-3161. That's Rosemary Goliath. 651-452-3161. Or Eileen Laurel at 239-246-5608. And then one after that will be Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez in Washington State. And you can contact her through me, kfireforall@yahoo.com. And then possibly one after that in London, and then certainly one after that in Switzerland with Magdalene de Deus. And once again, you can contact me, and I will forward that to Magdalene de Deus, and she can give you the information that you require to come to one of these events. It's very important that people begin to partake of the opportunities that the Kundalini is giving them to come together with other Kundalini people and initiate change for the better on this world. I encourage all of you to do this. I don't care if it's in the Himalayas or the Andes or the American Southwest or Switzerland at the top of the Alps. I don't care where it is. I think we need to do this. And that goes for those of you that haven't had your spinal sweep yet. You're in the activation phase. That's just as important. Now, these dreams, are they real? Are they, yeah, they're real. They're absolutely real, but they're not all about one thing. So, for instance, this particular dream that you're talking about, this can just as well be about Kundalini people just coming together to initiate conscious spiritual change upon this world, regardless of what drives them there.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also be Kundalini coming together to bring an end to a nuclear evolved game plan that some entities want to run through and ruin this planet with. It's time. It's time to reach beyond your normal parameters of understanding and let this energetic, divine inner self begin to express itself through you. And if that means you got to travel to the Amazon, well, then travel to the Amazon. Or the American Southwest, or Ireland, or Switzerland, or London, or, Washington State, or anywhere else where the Kundalini people have an opportunity to gather together. One of the things we'll be doing in Washington State is putting our hands in the water and giving the oceans a Kundalini divine healing. Okay? The dreams are a form of direct communication, bypassing your ego, that the Kundalini makes to the higher mental functioning self. So take it seriously. Take it seriously. It's important. It's not being there just as oh, honey, it's just a dream, like my mom used to say. Not that at all. Not that at all. They're real, and they have definite messages to give to people. And if I knew more about this dream, I don't have it up in front of me right now, so I can't really comment on it to a great degree. But they're never just fantasies. They're never just, oh, well, I had like Scrooge says, oh, it was just a bit of mustard with a piece of bad meat that I must have eaten, and here's this goat. It's not that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fantasy. It's not, oh, well, I have some work anxiety, and I guess I'm just working out the anxiety. No. You have Kundalini. Everything is different for you. You are not a normal five-sense controlled individual. You have a divine contact now. Everything is different for you. None of the dream interpretation books that you'll buy in Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble or any of the booksellers around the world will have the correct opportunity to give you a Kundalini interpretation of your dreams. As far as I know, there is only one source for that, and you're listening to it. I do it all the time. You have to have Kundalini to correctly discern another person's dream state. You have to be able to tie into that dream. You have to be able to see it, feel it, know it. You can't read about it in a book. FYI. Next question?
I still think a book could be written, though, could it not, Chrism, by somebody,
Yes,
yeah. It's there,
It's there.
Yeah, it would be great to see. There's a question, a very practical question, but I want to mention it. It's about the 5 Tibetans, and on the groups, people were speaking about the difficulty that can be experienced in doing the 4th Tibetan in particular. And somebody asked about blocks, using blocks.
You can use yoga blocks for the 4th Tibetan. Implements are not a problem with the Tibetans. I mean, if your legs are too short or your arms are too long or your legs are too long and your arms are too short, it's okay. Just make sure that when you're starting the Tibetans without having ever done them before, that you only do no more than 6 of each one. You don't start off doing all 21. That's going to give you vertigo. And you're supposed to be dizzy. You're not, with the first Tibetan, you're spinning to the right. You're supposed to be dizzy. Don't spot it like a ballet dancer does. Whipping your head around and staring at that spot, then whipping it around again. You're supposed to be dizzy. It's supposed to happen that way. Let it come. And because the next Tibetan, you're going to be laying on your back anyway. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem. And do no more than 6 when you're just starting. Let yourself gradually increase the Tibetans to the 21 point. Don't start out that way. You're just asking for problems.
Chrism, could you say a bit about why we do the Tibetans? I mean, why do we do that particular practice?
The Tibetans are the equivalent of micro Kundalini stimulation and 4 pumps that bring it up. So as you spin clockwise, micro stimulation of Kundalini is brought up to the second because of the second Tibetan. Then it's brought up, then the first, second, and third, and then first, second, third, fourth, and first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So it's a series of pumping motions of the body that pull the energy up the spine. That's why we do it. Mm-hmm. We don't get stuck. There is no blockages. It is a very effective way of helping yourself have the Kundalini within a safety format. Because at the same time, as you do the 5 Tibetans, I want you to say, okay, I forgive my mom, I forgive my dad, I forgive my brother. Or you could just assign 5 people to each one of the Tibetans. So the spin, you can say, oh, I forgive Chrism for being such a mean teacher.
Never.
I forgive him. So spinning around, 21 times or 6 times if you're beginning. Oh, I forgive Chrism. And then the next one is like, oh, I forgive Amelia, for misspelling words on the whatever site, It's like, oh, I forgive that, And then the third is like, oh, I forgive my husband or my wife for, snoring last night, keeping me up, that type of stuff. You can combine them together. And I suggest that you do.
Okay. Thank you, Chrism. Okay, how important is it for us to feel gratitude, for everything that comes, even what we would perceive as being bad, or difficult? How important is it to feel gratitude for that?
It's very, very important. Gratitude is extremely important. Gratitude is a form of exalted love, just like forgiveness. And as this love is exalted through a specific frequency of emotion, such as gratitude or compassion or sympathy or a devotion, it is given into the body in such a way that it begins to actively change that body. It aids the transformation of the Kundalini within the body. So have gratitude towards Kundalini. Have gratitude towards the Kundalini teacher. Really begin to be thankful for what is occurring. Actively thankful. It's a very big deal, and this aids in your ability to surrender. This aids in your ability to give yourself even deeper and deeper and further. Some of the students, that I work with, they constantly hear me saying, come on, you can go deeper with this. You can go deeper in your devotion, deeper into your, I'm constantly encouraging them to go further and further and further and further in this as I Skype with them. Okay? Constantly. Is that true, Amelia?
This is true indeed, Chrism. It is. Yeah, it is.
Constantly. Go ahead.
There's always more. There is always more. Which, if I was on my own without a teacher, I might not see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. in many ways, part of the teacher's job is to drive the process further and further and faster and deeper and more into the areas of the ego than the person even realizes they have. But once again, for a Kundalini person, they must have an awakened Kundalini teacher. And that teacher needs to have a track record. That teacher needs to have been able to write about it, to speak about it, the many different ways that you can't just like go, oh, okay, I guess I'll trust, Swami Johnson. Swami Johnson, it sounds like a nice guy. I'll just go with him. No. Be very careful. Be very discerning. This is not light stuff that you're dealing with. This is transformative stuff. This stuff goes beyond lifetimes.
Yeah.
Very, very important that you have the grace and the gratitude, and you express it.
Yes, and just in terms of track record, we also, like I say, with my journey with having a Kundalini teacher, the track record becomes personal, and then I, as a student with that can also stand as a witness, for other people to say that this has been my experience too, and I think that's important. So
it's just like you can drag the teacher's reputation through the mud. I've had my reputation dragged through the mud, but you can also drag that teacher's reputation through the radiance as well. It's a reflection of the individual about which way they choose to go with that.
Yes. Actually, something interesting, if I could just share it, Chrism, and you're aware that since about, late this afternoon, I began to feel quite unwell, and I had, let's call it digestive upset. I mean, really unwell now. And your comment about the bathroom was a referral to me, and nausea and this. But the interesting thing is, as the program started, and I've got waves of nausea, and I'm hoping that I will be okay. I am perfectly okay. And as the program has, from very early on, it has gone, and I am completely relieved of all of those physical symptoms. So I want to share that because it's actually been quite dramatic.
Are you sitting down?
Yes.
Stand up. Go ahead.
Standing up.
How do you feel?
Perfectly wonderful.
Well, I have to tell you,
excellent.
ladies and gentlemen, she contacted me before the show. She said, Chrism, you know how you sometimes say that Amelia's in the bathroom? Well, that might be a real thing this time. And if you see me go into the yellow zone, that means I'm in the potty, and I'm not going to be available if you can help me out. And of course I said, yeah, sure. And I'm not surprised that the Kundalini has reached into her and given her that healing. And it's the work same for any of you that are listening live right now, that are listening in the future. So far I have Fasci, I have guest 1822, guest 2312, MJ Henderson, Ma Devasadbi, Steve Jarecki, and Sukha. Hello. You guys have lasted this long. That's a shout out to you for doing that. But if any of you have any problems right now, this type of thing can happen to you as well.
I want to say hello as well. I kind of missed him not having the screen in front of me. So hi everybody in the chat room. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Now I'm going to put you in the Shiva blue, my dear. I'm going to bring Rosemary on here. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi there, Chrism.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And listening.
I've heard that about you.
Yes, very carefully. And I have to say, I had my phone in my pocket, and when the number 1 showed up, I said, "Oh my goodness!" It was just in the phone in my pocket. So thank you for not stopping to ask me for something I didn't have to say.
So do you have any announcements you'd like to make?
I do have the announcements. we have our next seminar planned by request, February 21st and 22nd at the same hotel where we were in September. We'll be there in February, and Kristen will be here the week before. That's like the 14th to the 21st, speaking at different locations that Eileen and I are working on right now. And also, he's coming between now and then in December 1st to the 7th, to just do talks. There won't be a seminar, but there'll be 6 places around the cities who will have the opportunity, those of you in town, to hear Chrism speak about Kundalini and the simple ways it can be helping us through the holidays and what that meaning might be for us.
Yes.
So thank you.
Christmas Kundalini. I like that. It goes well together. Well, thank you, dear Rosemary. Thank you for the announcement, and give Mark, your housemate, my blessing, and a big hug and a kiss for you. And I'll be Skyping with you later on so we can work out some more of those details. And I'm going to put you in the Shiva Blue, my dear.
Thank you.
Okay, and bringing Amelia back on board here. There you are. Still okay?
Am I back on? Yes, Chrism. I'm so grateful. I'm feeling very grateful. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Kundalini. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Your gratitude.
I have no other questions anyway, so we've come to the end of the questions, and I think we're coming towards the end of the show, are we not? We are.
Yes, 3:51. I would just like to thank Fashji and the guests 1822 and 2312 and MJ Henderson, Madhava Sadri, Steve Jarecki, and Sukha for being here and staying throughout the entire program. I'm going to put you on the blue there. I hear that echo. There we are. And I would like to say thank you, deeply thank you, Amelia, for the excellent questions that you've harvested from our groups. I would like to say hello to the people that are listening in the archives, and I'd like to say thank you to Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, Eileen Laurel, Rosemary Goliath, Amelia Santara O'Connor. I would like to say a special thank you to Magdalene de Deus as she prepares the Switzerland gathering. And I'd like to say a special thank you to all my private students who I will invite to listen to this broadcast of Conversations with the Kundalini. And I'm going to bring Amelia back on for final goodbyes. Amelia?
Thank you. Well, goodbye, everybody. And again, and thank you so much, Chrism, for the conversations today and the Kundalini. And see everybody next week. And I just want to say a special hello to John O'Connor, who is listening on his computer. And John, thank you, Chrism, and everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. I mean, you're a big part of this, whether you like it or not.
Lovely, John. So thank you, Chrism, and I look forward to next week again.
Thank you, Amelia. And thank you, everybody. Ma Devasabi is bending her head in gratitude, and gratitude right back at you, all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for John and Amelia O'Connor for providing this vital outreach tool to reach as many people as possible. And I want to say, thank you to them, especially for this broadcast. Thank you to the people on the groups, on the Yahoo groups, on the Facebook groups, on the YouTube groups, and on all the groups that we're able to broadcast this information through. Feel free, if you would, to share this program. Share it on Reddit. Share it on Facebook. Share it everywhere you can share this. This stuff needs to get out, and I just don't have the resources right now to do it all myself. So please help me share this program. There's no profit in it for anybody except for those who are receiving the gifts of the guidance that the Kundalini brings. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for participation in this program. See you next week.